Recorded Books presents Killing Time by Brenna Erhlich, narrated by Laura Knight Keating. Chapter 1. After that summer, Natalie Temple would forever associate the smell of ketchup with death. Her hometown, Ferry, Connecticut, was in the midst of one of its famous heat waves as Natalie finished up her shift at her mom's diner, marrying half-empty bottles as it got dark out. She had spent the evening sliding ice cubes down her freckled neck and across her collarbones as she served up burgers to sweating summer kids fresh from the sidewalks. They'd play in the shadows until their parents called them home from under the porch lights, packing like sardines into someone's shed, hunting fireflies by the pine trees, slurping rapidly melting ice cream cones from Sammy's shack, a roadside spot flanked by the ocean and the graveyard. Ferry was any neighborhood in summertime, and Natalie was any kid with a summer job, watching the clock and willing it to move faster. She was just finishing her business with the ketchup bottles when Mrs. Pressman and Mr. Lugo, the crime reporters from the Ferry Caller, pushed through the front door of her mother's diner, their faces white and drawn. "Can I get some water, Helen?" Flora Pressman asked, smoothing her frizzled ponytail to no avail. Her face was always framed by a halo of flyaways. She plunked down at the counter and guzzled the water Natalie's mother, Helen Temple, placed in front of her. Henry Lugo settled onto his stool and, despite the sweat streaming down his bald head, ordered a hot coffee. "Long day?" Helen asked, leaning on the counter, fanning herself with a menu. "Did a bird get into the shop right again?" Ferry wasn't exactly a hotbed of crime, much to Natalie's chagrin. She wasn't entirely sure why the paper needed a crime reporter, let alone two. People kept their hedges trimmed and their noses clean. Parents had jobs in offices that their children didn't understand, and everyone went to the beach on the weekends to turn like rotisserie chickens in the sun. It was more tourist destination than town, its seaport teeming with antique boats, the aquarium boasting daily sea lion shows, the same creatures doing the same tricks year after year as the kids got older, left, and then came back to have kids of their own. Natalie always felt like there was something darker under the soil, though, like a hand struggling to burst from the grave in an old movie. That perfection had to come at a cost. Not that she had experienced firsthand any real darkness in her 18 years. It was just a hunch, and she was an avid fan of the hunch. Or maybe it was that she just hoped her town wasn't as utterly boring as it seemed. Mrs. Pressman shook her head, draining her glass, and tears started running down her cheeks. Natalie's hands stilled, and her breath froze. An adult crying was distinctly wrong, like a pet talking or something. She kept quiet despite her alarm. It seemed that the adults had forgotten that she stood by the jukebox, surrounded by ketchup bottles, and she didn't want them to remember her, or their manners, and hush up. When Natalie had started getting interested in true crime a few years back, Helen had hastily put the kibosh on her intrigue. Natalie wasn't entirely sure why her mother was so vehemently against the subject. She figured it was just part of Helen's generalized anxiety about the world at large. She did know, however, that Helen would not like it if she knew her daughter sat up nights poring over books about the Golden State Killer and the Zodiac, or about the hours she spent on true crime message boards, trading theories with faceless strangers. She would especially hate Natalie's blood-drenched podcast, Killing Time, if she knew that it existed, which, thankfully, she did not.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?